Amadou, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With a special edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, just days away from John Cena's last match, with a special edition of the show, a retirement retrospective looking at John Cena's entire career and final 36 dates in WWE, along with a WWE Saturday Night's Main Event Ultimate Preview covering John Cena's last match and the 3 other bouts involving NXT talent booked for the card. As usual here at Getting Over, we have an absolute ton to get to on today's special show. So let's not waste any time off the top. Allow the Silver King to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, Vintage, Chris Vannini, and the show in its entirety. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget to follow us on social media, which is crucial for this weekend specifically, on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Getting Overcast. On Twitter and Blue Sky, we give you episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and you can vote in pre- and post-show polls around special events just like Saturday night's main event. On YouTube, when you subscribe over there, you can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews. So no matter where you want to find us, just make sure you're typing in Getting Overcast. Vintage, welcome back to the show. Second time speaking to you in as many days. You know, we had a really difficult decision to make when it came to covering WWE this week. There's so much that happens across Raw and SmackDown. We wanted to ensure all of that got its just due, while simultaneously platforming the importance of John Cena's last match and this crazy run of 35 dates leading into this 36th date that WWE and Cena have put us on throughout 2025. There was a lot that went down over the last couple of days, even just leading into this last match. John Cena sat down for some interviews, revealed some details. You and I have been conversing for the better part of 12 months on this podcast after every single one of his appearances, whether we thought they were positive or negative, how we believed the retirement run was going. And of course, you and I both have our individual memories from John Cena's career. And what you and I kind of came up with was this special episode. That way we could throw it all together in one batch, mix it up, and provide everyone with not our final thoughts on John Cena, because those, of course, will come this Saturday on our WWE Saturday Night's Main Event Instant Analysis Podcast, another special edition here on the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast, but our penultimate thoughts on Cena, the last time we'll be able to speak about him at length and take his full career into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about wrestling legends, especially for our generation, they either fall in the bucket of very long career or like kind of very short career at the top. Like Austin's run in WWF was like 4-5 years. Like that's really all it was. Meanwhile, you've got, you know, a decade plus of John Cena and him being at the top for like 20 years of that, really, even if he wasn't around as much. So it's like he was around, he was a part of so many transformative moments. He defines the era. It's not like The Undertaker, who just kind of did the same thing the whole time. It was never like the top guy. John Cena was the top guy. So it was like, let's take some time here to talk about not only the tour, which we've never seen in pro wrestling, the show coming up, but also Cena's run himself.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, but like the closest comparison to John Cena modern day is actually The Rock. When you think about it, he had a 7-year run in WWE total. Now, obviously, he had individual matches after that, but it was, I want to say, 1996 to 2003. In 2003 is when he came back as Hollywood Rock, and that was, you know, just somewhat spotty appearances on its own, but 7 years. And he was not atop the company for that entire time. Obviously, he was for the vast majority of it once he caught fire. But 7 years. John Cena has been in the WWE main roster for 23 years, in the ecosystem, including Ohio Valley Wrestling, for 25 years. He made it a point to wrestle one match per year. I think there was even, it was a couple years ago, he showed up on the final SmackDown of the year in a tag team match just to make sure he wrestled and kept the streak going. That's crazy dedication. And, people will say a lot of things about John Cena. We will go over a lot of different moments that he's had both during the first 22 years of his career and here in the final year, the 23rd main roster year. Positive, negative, things we loved, things we hated. But the one thing that no one can ever deny about this dude is his dedication to the company and to the industry. He has shown that over and over again. And it is why WWE was able to make such a big deal out of his retirement, why fans completely bought into it. And it's why we're doing this show, because there's a lot of people who retire in professional wrestling. And we've seen them in the past. Sting, most recent. We're going to see some more coming up in the future. Edge probably pretty soon. Chris Jericho. There's a solid chance we are not going to be doing special 90-minute to 2-hour-long career retrospectives for them like we are here for John Cena.
No, and I couldn't even tell you for a lot of those guys. So, yeah, it's been an interesting year to do the retirement run. Cena's talked about it a bit. So, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So we're going to kind of break all this down in, a few different segments on the show. There's not a main event or a good, bad, and ugly. Actually, there kind of is a good, bad, and ugly. We'll come back to that in a second. We're going to first take a look at the entirety of John Cena's career in review. Then we will circle back and kind of do a good, bad, and ugly when it comes to his retirement run. This 12-month stretch of 36 appearances that have been quite maligned by many critics and fans. I've been extremely curious whether that lives up to scrutiny. Like, was this actually disappointing when looking at it in its totality, or were there just stretches and moments that we wished were better? John Cena sat down for that interview with Tom Rinaldi. There's a couple individual items to take away from that I thought we could discuss. And then we will get into the Last Time Is Now tournament, the final between LA Knight and Gunther, leading into the WWE Saturday Night's Main Event Ultimate Preview, including a full breakdown of what we expect from John Cena's last match. So there's a ton of content coming your way here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. And let's get to it, as Chris just said, John Cena's career in review. The top line item when it comes to Cena is that he's a 17-time world heavyweight champion who wrestled, as I said, on WWE TV for 23 years as part of a 25-year career, including Ohio Valley Wrestling. He went from the prototype to the doctor of thugonomics to the hustle, loyalty, respect John Cena that we know today. He held the WWE Championship 14 times, the World Heavyweight Championship 3 times, the United States Championship 5 times, 2 different versions of the tag team titles with the most strange variety of partners. The Miz, Batista, Shawn Michaels, and David Otunga. Talk about random.
He was never in a tag team, right?
Not in a real solid long-term tag team. No.
Through all that, never really in the tag team division. No. I just realized that as you said that.
Indeed. He completed the career Grand Slam just last month by winning the Intercontinental title. Ironically, the 25th person ever to do it, 18th under the current format, which for Cena, having been wrestling in this company for 23 years, you would have expected that to happen a lot sooner and his number to be a lot lower than 18 or 25, depending which list you want to look at. He won 2 Royal Rumbles, which actually is a surprise that it's not more. He took Money in the Bank once in 2012. He competed in 8 Elimination Chamber matches, winning 4 of them. That'll probably be tough to top. He actually had a losing record in 3 Hell in a Cell matches, but a winning record in 6 steel cage matches that made it on TV. But this is the craziest item, Chris, that I found when doing this numbers breakdown. John Cena, in his WWE career, completed... You know what? I want to ask you.
Okay.
Chris, how many steel cage matches do you think John Cena wrestled in his career? 6 of them are on TV. How many total do you think he wrestled?
So you mean like it's 6 on TV plus house show stuff?
Correct.
God, I mean, they used to... One of the first house show I ever went to was John Cena versus Bray Wyatt in a tables match. I think it wasn't a steel cage.
He did a lot of tables matches and yep,
yeah,
a lot of those 2 chairs matches. He did. Yep.
Like John Cena was the classic, like, do the house shows, do a stipulation match to close it out. I'm going to say 100.
Oh, okay. I didn't think you were going to go like that. No, he did not do 100. So you kind of ruined the.
Yeah, I probably
you kind of ruined this whole like surprise that I was going to give. John Cena competed in 83 steel cage matches in his career.
I wasn't far off. That is a ton.
No, I know. I thought you were going to say like 40 though. I thought you were going to be way under.
I thought you were going to tell me the answer was like 40. So I was like, okay.
Oh no, okay, no.
Close.
Yeah, 83 steel cage matches. And look, when you do those house show steel cage matches, you're not wrestling them like you're on TV. You're not taking the same kind of bumps and stuff, but still, it's a steel cage. It's not a regular match, and you are putting your body through hell trying to achieve those. That's insane. In terms of career highlights, Chris, it would be impossible for us to cover them all. And frankly, Cena's first few years on WWE TV, they're the time when I was not watching the product. I was finishing up college, beginning my life. I believe you fell into a same zone, right? Like the beginning of Cena's career is not something I paid attention to that much.
No, I was out at the end of the invasion in 2001, so I missed pretty much all of the Ruthless Aggression era as it happened. Now, I've gone back since and watched a ton of it.
Same.
But, I'm trying to remember the first time I remember hearing about John Cena. Like I remember hearing the name and thinking, oh, is he like his first thinking like, is he Hispanic or something like that, or Italian? Like my dad thought he was Italian.
John Cena?
It was
like Santino Marella. John Cena?
Yeah. So like it was Raw 1000 that brought me back. No, I'm sorry. Right before, I don't know if before or after, but Rock versus Cena the first time around in Raw 1000, right around that period.
Gotcha.
That is what got me back into it. So I knew of Cena and saw him, but I didn't have a ton of thoughts on him because I knew I wasn't watching the product that often. But he started to break through mainstream in a way that a lot of people started to notice pretty quickly.
Yeah, he did. And I think I started watching again around, I want to say, I started watching again around 05, 06. Okay. But what I would do is I would only watch the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. That was pretty much all I was doing. And then once I graduated college, in like 2006, 7 area. Sorry, 6, 7. Yeah. Did not mean to do that. But around that time was when I started watching like television regularly because I had a DVR. I would be able to watch Raw and SmackDown and then fast forward it and go through it whenever. And that's when I started seeing Cena. And the moment that really stands out to me, and we'll talk about it in a moment, we're getting like out of order here, but was the build for ECW One Night Stand with Rob Van Dam, who I want to say won Money in the Bank and then cashed in his contract to get the title match on that show. And I want to say he was also ECW champion at the time. I may be getting this a little bit mixed up, but I remember having a visceral reaction to the idea that WWE would merge the WWE title with the ECW title because the person who was the ECW champion was going to be winning the WWE title. And that would mean the WWE title, which has the history, will get merged into the title of the guy who is already a champion, ECW champion. Now, they didn't do that, but I remember being very angry at like the concept of that. So that was the first time that I like cared about something that was happening in wrestling again. And I've been watching ever since. But my point was that there was this period of time where I really wasn't watching at the beginning of his career. And even those years, 2007, 8, whatever that was with One Night Stand all the way through the end, John Cena wasn't necessarily my favorite wrestler. He was someone that was on TV and getting adverse reactions from fans for a long period of time. So I never had the genesis of fandom that many John Cena fans had, is what I'm trying to explain. I appreciated the guy for what I saw on TV, but he was not my guy. Like a lot of other people. Shawn Michaels, I was there from way before the boyhood dream to when he achieved that and then, became one of the greatest of all time. John Cena was already seen as great by the time I was back invested in the product. And I think that is an interesting distinction to make here in terms of our memories of him and what stands out to us from his career. Because for a lot of other people who are watching Raw and SmackDown, there may be, freestyle segments he did in 2003 or this U.S. championship feud he had with this person that stand out to them. For me, it's much bigger moments much later in his career. And you know what, Chris, before we move on, there's something I did want to cover briefly on the show, and there's really no other place to discuss it during this episode. Off the top, many of you probably noticed that we didn't play our normal theme. We played My Time Is Now, the John Cena entrance theme that you hear so many times. And you guys know I'm a big rap, hip hop fan and get into music a little bit. So I thought that it was possible. Some of you may not know where the intro of that song comes from. Now, there are horns that are sampled from some, older record or something like that. But in case you didn't know, John Cena's entrance theme is taken from this. I'm obviously not going to play the whole song. It's Ante Up by M.O.P. But if you want to listen to it, or if you ever, I know many of you use Spotify, I don't, but if you want to add that to your collection, you'll get treated to a little reminder of John Cena when you listen to music.
I'd seen that there's a commercial for something that I like over the past couple of months that I've heard it a bunch, and I'm like, wait a minute, why does that part sound like it's from John Cena's music? Yep. That explains it.
That is exactly it. And it's actually a pretty interesting political reference that is not intentional, I don't believe, on Cena's part. It is on M.O.P.'s part. So again, if you want to, you can do the Rap Genius Lyrics website or whatever, Ante Up by M.O.P., and you can learn a little bit more about why that is said at the beginning of John Cena's entrance and where it comes from. And by the way, it's an all-time classic hip-hop song. So if you're not a big rap fan, go, add that to your list and listen to it a little bit. But getting back to John Cena and his overall career highlights, look, it's going to be impossible for us to cover them all. And frankly, as I mentioned, Cena's first few years on WWE TV, it's when we weren't that fully in tune with the product. So Chris and I kind of decided to do this endeavor where we put together some lists and we go through things that we're going to remember about John Cena. If we sat down and clipped his best promos and finishes to matches and all that, we're talking about a 2.5, 3 hour show here, which is what we do for the year in review and the 2025 Getting Over Awards, AKA
the meaties.
But in this case, we felt, look, no, I don't think anyone really has that much of a desire to listen to a 3 hour retrospective on John Cena, nor frankly do Vintage and I have the time to do that. So our lists are rather truncated. Vintage has granted me the ability to kind of go first and just run down mine, which is in order. I did order it up from the beginning of his career to the end. These are the things that stood out to me. Certainly, Chris, if I say anything you want to expand on a little further, stop me and we'll go have that conversation. And then on the back end, Vintage will, bring up anything I didn't mention because I'm sure he has some things that stood out to him individually as well. So obviously with Cena, it all starts with that TV debut on June 27th, 2002, slapping Kurt Angle, showing ruthless aggression, getting his hand shook by The Undertaker backstage. That's the memorable moment of John Cena at the beginning of his career. The 2005 Royal Rumble, pulling the Shawn Michaels British Bulldog spot, getting eliminated alongside Batista, only for Batista to end up winning. ECW One Night Stand against Rob Van Dam, Cena walking out of the tunnel as the most hated man in the entire arena, the entire city of Philadelphia, let me clarify. One of, I would say, Chris, the greatest visuals in wrestling history. The surprise return at the 2008 Royal Rumble in Madison Square Garden, completely unexpected by everyone in the building, an insane ovation in the world's most famous arena, that short entrance ramp making it all the better because it was immediate. There was no long walk or anything. The music hit, he popped out. Seconds later, he's in the ring wrestling, and people are going crazy for it. Getting attacked by Nexus in 2010, ultimately being forced to join the faction, even if that ended poorly. At the time, it felt fresh, and Cena badly needed something fresh. Cena announcing the assassination of Osama bin Laden in May 2011 at Extreme Rules in Tampa, a show I probably should have attended but did not. Here is that clip.
With hustle, loyalty, and respect on my sleeve. That is a credo I have adopted for the men and women who defend the freedom of this country. We have caught and compromised to a permanent end Osama bin Laden.
I mean, I really don't want to get into this whole like death of Osama bin Laden thing here on the John Cena retrospective, but it is kind of wild that two of the most memorable clips or moments or, instances from that night are John Cena announcing it at Extreme Rules at a time, by the way, where like people weren't on their iPhones constantly able to just get breaking news announcements, number one, but also The Rock sending a tweet about it. They are two of the people who informed like millions of people simultaneously that this happened. The Rock and John Cena. That is kind of crazy, dude.
Yeah, The Rock tweeted, didn't say it directly, but he alluded to it in a tweet before it was even publicly reported. I wasn't watching WWE at the time. I remember watching this. I can't imagine what it must be like if you found that news out from John Cena. Because that wasn't live on television. I believe it was after the show went off the air. So it's just for the people in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot imagine. Like, you must be like, wait, is this a work? What are we like? I can't even imagine what that must have been like.
I don't remember when it happened. Like if it was during the show or after the show.
Well, the only clip I ever see is like it's one there's a clip that's online and it seems pretty clear it's after the show because everything obviously with WWE is so
scripted. Yeah.
I think the show had ended with Cena or something, and then while he was out,
the tweet from The Rock was, just got word that will shock the world, land of the free, home of the brave, damn proud to be an American. This was like 30 minutes before Barack Obama went on, his pulpit and announced it live on national television. And Rock, he's told the story about how he found out before, but it's just crazy that you have the John Cena live reaction. I mean, imagine that. Imagine being John Cena and being able to say that, inform people of this momentous happening live at a pay-per-view, and then they're chanting USA at you just as much as they are in the moment. Insane. I mean, talk about memorable. That is memorable. It's rare that Cena was ever the B-side in a feud or storyline. That was his role in the Summer of Punk 2011. Tough to ask for more out of a guy, Chris, putting over another top dude who would go on to become a legend in the industry, all of it culminating in the Money in the Bank match, the single best match of John Cena's entire career to this day, 5 stars plus, A++ if I was grading it on, my scale. But the match they had on Raw 2 years later was pretty great too. The Money in the Bank 2011 though, Chris, that was special.
Yeah, that was one again. I wasn't watching live at the time, but for all the talk all the time of like Cena not putting other people over, burying them and whatnot, that's what made Punk's win in hindsight, especially so shocking, monumental at the time, that they really did create a new star in CM Punk. And that was the value of Cena. Whereas like if you beat him on that stage, you were then made. And they did a good job with that.
Yeah, it was phenomenal for sure. Of course, the 2-year feud with The Rock, culminating in their 2 WrestleMania matches. I attended WrestleMania 28 in Miami, billed once in a lifetime. Of course, it was not, but it was the first Mania match that was booked a full year in advance, which was pretty damn special. There was the segment in 2012, I want to say, when Cena was going to bring out The Rock after that second, I want to say, WrestleMania match, only for Brock Lesnar to return and F5 him, and that was the big return of Lesnar.
That was the day after Miami. Yeah.
Day after Miami, so after the first match, right. Okay, That makes sense. The entire feud with Bray Wyatt, with that memorable visual of the children wearing sheep masks as Wyatt tried to turn Cena into a monster. That's when the stadiums were singing Whole World in his hands for Bray. Super, super memorable, especially now looking back on it. Obviously, the entire AJ Styles feud. The face that runs the place on SmackDown trying to take Cena's role. All the matches they had together. Certainly, they've followed up with another classic here in 2025. I was also at WrestleMania 35 when Cena returned as Doctor of Thugonomics and took out Elias. That was surreal to witness live. Like, there were rumors Cena was going to be on the show. And then he comes out as Doctor of Thugonomics in, I think it was Yankees themed gear, if memory serves. It was really, really cool.
Gotta be.
was awesome. The second Wyatt feud and Firefly Funhouse match during the pandemic at WrestleMania 36, arguably the most unique thing that he achieved in his entire career. And then the last personal Cena moment I have that truly sticks out to me was October 10th, 2023, when he showed up at the special edition of NXT that was stacked with major stars in Orlando. Seeing Cena in a venue that small, being there live, was ridiculous. And since I was there in the capacity of a fan, I wasn't wearing my journalist hat. I wasn't, we had the podcast going, but I wasn't there doing interviews or anything like that. I was just sitting in the front row. And I have never met Cena professionally. It was a mark out moment when he climbed into this tiny crowd during commercial break and ran from row to row and aisle to aisle, shaking hands, taking pictures, just being amongst fans. I guess because I'm a sturdy base, I remember he used my shoulder. He put his mitt on my shoulder to propel himself like above me to the next row. And then when he came back down ringside and he got like off and he was standing, right by the ringside over the barricade, he turned back, shook my hand and literally said, "Thanks for the boost." So that's like my personal John Cena memory. But seeing him again in that tiny venue with those fans, the level of noise, you guys may not realize this, but the WWE Performance Center, when you go and watch NXT, the hard cam side is basically empty. There's limited handicap seating and you may see some, stage hands or people who work in WWE standing behind the hard cam, but it's a big white wall. There's nothing there. So when you're watching NXT, it's basically, 3/4 of a bowl and it's extremely packed in together. The volume level that arena, whatever you want to call it, warehouse reached when John Cena came out, knowing there were only like 300 people or however many people there, was insanity. Like ears bleeding loud. And to be able to experience that and then have that little mini fun, personal story I can tell with John Cena, that was pretty damn cool. So Chris, that's my list of like the most memorable moments of his career. What stands out to you that I didn't mention?
I got a few on here still. Beating JBL for his first world title, 2005 at WrestleMania 21. He also had a pretty bloody match with JBL a couple of years later. There was the US Open Challenge, which I believe started when he beat Rusev at WrestleMania 31.
The tank match?
The year after he beat Bray Wyatt, he beat Rusev with the tank and everything. And that got the US Open Challenge going. And the US Open Challenge kind of felt like the moment when the Smarks turned back towards Cena again.
Well, they gave him a chance again. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to his credit, he started doing new kinds of moves, having really better matches than he'd done before. And he's talked about this recently too, about like trying to talk with younger wrestlers and figure out how to do some new things. So that was like, all right, we respect John Cena, who's just going to come out and do these matches. I think, was that when Sami Zayn made his debut? I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So he Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. And then he got into the KO feud on the back end of that. Yeah.
The KO feud was awesome. He puts Kevin Owens over the first match. And then Cena took the next two. And that was when it felt like that was when things kind of shifted back towards Cena, of like people kind of respecting him for doing a bunch of things. Other stuff I got here, the TLC match with Edge at Unforgiven.
Yes.
Really, really good. I'm trying to think of my own personal Cena moment. I didn't ever meet him in person, but I was at Money in the Bank 2021, the second show post Thunderdome during the pandemic. They did the SmackDown in Houston and then the Money in the Bank show in Fort Worth. It was Roman Reigns versus Edge, and Roman Reigns wins, and John Cena makes a surprise return at the end of that show. And that was my biggest, like, holy crap, Cena surprise pop. Loved that. I loved also, this was right when I kind of got back into wrestling, selecting Daniel Bryan to be his SummerSlam opponent in 2013.
That was huge.
That is a moment that is often forgotten in the whole Daniel Bryan story. It's like, yeah, he won the title from Cena, but then he got screwed and on the story went, and however much of a work or a shoot it was, your mileage may vary. But that whole thing happened because John Cena just said, I want to fight the best wrestler and the one that people like. I select Daniel Bryan. Like it is kind of wild to think back to that. And they had a great match and Daniel Bryan won. He put him over. That was pretty great. A positive and negative one, the Nexus Wade Barrett stuff in 2010, which ultimately I think even David Otunga said recently that like basically kind of they all got buried by Cena in that moment. And
yeah,
Team Cena won that Survivor Series match, I think it was.
People tell a lot of different stories about that, but Otunga has long suggested that, they were buried by him and he didn't want to do business, which is kind of antithetical to a lot of what we know about Cena. But yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit of it,
and then literally burying Wade Barrett in the chairs at TLC, it must have been, when the chairs were all hanging from the set. Cool image, but I don't know. You could debate or whether or not it hurt Wade Barrett or not. He obviously went on to have a pretty decent career, but that was pretty good. What else here? The promo with Roman Reigns in 2017.
Yeah,
when Roman Reigns was like becoming the guy, but wasn't that, and Cena leaned into it and was like, "Time for you to swim here in the big waters," basically, and like kind of
he sank.
Yeah, and he sank.
He sank.
And that was a really interesting moment. It's always, I've always found it fascinating when WWE puts somebody in the ring with Cena for a promo and they're just like, all right, let's see what you got. And Austin Theory did that a couple of years ago or whatever. Yep. And Cena will just go at you and try to bury you, basically. And it's like, how do you handle that?
Yeah.
They've done that a few times. I have found that interesting. And then also just in general with Cena, the spinner belts, like they used that spinner belt for like 8 years. Yeah. The WWE World Championship one. That was the belt.
They made so much merch money off that. It was crazy.
So much merch money from the kids. And then his album, which I think went platinum.
Yeah.
And he made a comment on the Tom Rinaldi interview, I think, where he said, "I'm the only rapper to go platinum and never do a follow-up."
Yeah, exactly. And he said also that he has like 70 tracks on the floor that, never made it to an album, never got published. And we're gonna go over a couple notes from that Rinaldi interview in a bit.
And I'm not a rap connoisseur like yourself, but I do have a couple of those other songs on my iPhone, including "Bad Bad Man," which is good. So it was pretty good. So man, he defined an era for a long time.
He did. And you actually mentioned, I was going to do a list, I still am, of the best John Cena matches here. And you actually mentioned a couple of them in your breakdown. So these are not necessarily in any order other than year. So, I'm not saying one of these is the greatest, although I think I already told you, Money in the Bank, against CM Punk is the best match of John Cena's career. But this is a list.
It is why, by the way, that Money in the Bank match, going back to look at it and realizing it ends with John Laurinaitis bringing down and helping bring down Alberto Del Rio along with Vince McMahon is like, ooh,
yeah,
that's a thing you might want to scrub in.
No, you focus bell to bell. What you do is you focus bell to bell, and then and the atmosphere, and then you get rid of the rest.
And then CM Punk kisses goodbye, and that's it. Nothing else
runs away. Yeah. So this is, I don't know how many. This is approximately 15, but so this is my list of best John Cena matches. Get out a pen and paper, open your notes app, whatever the case, record this. But these are the matches you should be watching. I Quit match with JBL at Judgment Day 2005. I believe you mentioned that. Yep. TLC match with Edge at Unforgiven 2006. I know you mentioned that. They also did a 4-way with him, Randy Orton, and Shawn Michaels at Backlash 2007, which was ridiculous. The Umaga match at Royal Rumble 2007. I have a feeling Umaga is going to get skipped over significantly when it comes to a lot of people remembering Cena's career. Crucial B-side as a heel. The perfect person for hero John Cena never give up to fight against. And again, I think I said this maybe on even Tuesday show or last week recently. Umaga at some point should have been WWE champion, and it's ridiculous he never was. He had an insane match with Shawn Michaels on Raw in London 2007. Make sure you watch that. Brock Lesnar, Extreme Rules 2012. Daniel Bryan, SummerSlam 2013, as you mentioned. The weird triple threat with Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins at Royal Rumble 2015. This is when Rollins still had, what is it? What was it? Something and something security? J&J Security.
J&J Security.
Yeah, they were still by his side there. That match is absurd. The Kevin Owens match at Money in the Bank 2015. And then, as mentioned, the AJ Styles matches. SummerSlam 2016, Royal Rumble 2017. And then Crown Jewel 2025, and obviously the Cody Rhodes match at SummerSlam 2025 as well belongs on this list for many reasons. So those are, for me, however many of those were, 15-ish John Cena matches that you must watch.
One, you mentioned John Cena, Shawn Michaels. The WrestleMania match 23 in Detroit. Also a really good match. Probably not as good as that Raw one, but it's very good. And Chris Jericho has called it, I believe, the match that like motivated him to get back into wrestling.
Oh, interesting. I never heard that. That was a good match. I remember. I don't remember the details of it. The only reason I remember the Cena HBK match in 2007 is because it was on Raw in London. And why? Like, why are you putting on a, 5-star, 4.5-star match on that show at that time? It was just random. And you're watching it, you're like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. Oh, wait, this is crazy. And got better and better and built up. And it delivered. So yeah, that's a list of best John Cena matches as far as I'm concerned. And that was a nice little career look back. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
We did mention it briefly, but when he was Doctor of Thugonomics, the jersey game during that period,
the throwback jersey game, yeah,
so good. Like he really went all out for all that stuff. We remember the Spirits of St. Louis basketball jersey when I think he got drafted over to Raw. I know he wore a Magic Johnson Michigan State jersey one time. Like it's we don't really have a section for best John Cena disses, and some of them are corny, but when he went back to it, man, like it's the kind of wrestling promo that like you are just, and you see that with Max Caster when he was doing that, like you are waiting on every word that they say. Like you're fully connected and focused. And I want to hear what this person has to say, which is the genesis of pro wrestling promos. So like that was it obviously was when he was on his way up, and he says it's the kind of the gimmick that saved his career, but the jersey game, incredible.
It was strong as hell. All right, so that's like a look back on his career. Like I was saying, I thought we did decent justice to 22 of the 23 years. That 23rd year, though, is where we move into now. John Cena retirement retrospective. I want to go over the 36 total appearances that Cena made in 2025 for a couple different reasons, but one of them, as I mentioned earlier in the show, it's a real easy line to throw out there. Oh, WWE did a terrible job with John Cena's retirement. And I definitely believe there are swaths of what we're about to go over where you think back on them and you're like, ugh, why did they do it this way? And the booking wasn't good, or the segments weren't good. 100%, no question about that. But I also believe when you look at the 36 dates in totality, and of course 35 have transpired, the 36 will be Saturday night's main event, there's a lot of good in there, and perhaps even enough good that outweighs the bad to a degree that when we look back on it, not in 2026, but 10 years from now, oh man, remember this happened on, you remember what Cena did with Cody at SummerSlam, and so on and so forth. So I want to again go by the numbers a little bit, and then we're actually going to run through all 36 dates, and I'm going to do it really fast. I promised Chris that I was going to do it really fast, but we will. And I'll explain what we're going to do on the tail end of that. But let's take a look at it by the numbers. 36 total appearances out of 125 total main roster events involving men, so not counting Evolution. And that's, by the way, what's scheduled through the end of the year. There's still many to go. So he's made 36 out of, 112 or, some number like that. So he appeared on 29% of all shows in 2025 while shooting movies and TV. Pretty damn good. The reason it feels like it's been more few and far between than every third episode is because if you break down the year by quarter, he made his fewest appearances in this lead up to his retirement over the last 4 months. He wrestled, or will have wrestled, 18 total matches, including the Royal Rumble, his most in a single year since 2017. His most matches in 8 years. It's pretty crazy. He will have competed against or alongside 12 wrestlers, not including the Royal Rumble. So 12 people across 17 non-Rumble matches. Doesn't sound bad on the surface until you dig into the numbers even further. And that's where some of the shine begins to run off. Of his 36 total appearances, TV promos, matches, etc., these are the numbers of times he's primarily interacted with people in the ring. I'm only counting Jey Uso individually for the Royal Rumble because they were the final two in that match. So Cody Rhodes, 12 times makes sense. Main evented the two biggest shows of the entire year, christened him as the heir apparent. Chris, the next most on this list, this is where it becomes problematic. Logan Paul, 8 times. 8. The biggest issue in the retirement run by far, especially when you realize it's nearly double as many as Randy Orton and CM Punk, 5 each.
Yeah, like I understand doing the Logan thing, but it was so much. And that is what really surprised me on it, especially considering when you didn't get some of the other people involved.
Right. It's like, how do you do Logan Paul 8 times and 0 for The Miz? That's really, that's where it becomes problematic. And the answer on Logan, and like we're going to go date by date, but the answer on Logan is because he worked with him as a heel and then he worked with him as a face. And the heel was to help him get over as a heel. And then the face was to kind of help him get back over as a pure babyface, although he didn't really need that much help. But anyway, Orton and Punk 5 each. Dominic Mysterio, Jey Uso, R-Truth 3 times each. Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar twice each. And then Seth Rollins, Damian Priest, LA Knight, Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, Sheamus, Rey Mysterio, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, Roxanne Perez, and Gunther once each. So nothing at all with The Miz, Braun Breaker, Kofi Kingston, Rusev, nor Carmelo Hayes, just given the Boston connection. Now, it would have been impossible for Cena to do everything. To me, The Miz is the standout on this list, where it's just a shame they didn't rekindle that in some way. All in all, though, he did work with plenty of people in some form or fashion. It's really the insane amount of time he spent with Logan, like twice as much as anyone other than Cody. That's the huge problem. They needed 2 appearances together, maybe 3, not 8. If you take that out and you portion those 5 additional ones to other people, I think we start looking at this a lot differently.
Well, and a lot of that gets solved if you just do some more backstage segments when he's in town.
True. Yeah.
Like that's how our Truth thing one kind of started. And then that became a match or 2. But like that was always my biggest frustration. I was like, you've got Cena in the building, have him run into Miz backstage and do their thing. Like you could have him and Rusev in a thing
bump into Becky Lynch, because they had a moment, a couple of years ago where she did, you can't see me, and right into his face. Remember?
Yeah. So like, we're not saying like he needed a match with all these people, but just like, shoot, man, give him some more backstage segments.
Bump into Braun Breaker, shake his hand. You're the truth, man. I see it.
Nice work, kid.
Nice. Yeah. Anything like that really, I mean, and we're going to go date by date here, but I've said this on so many episodes of the podcast. One of my greatest frustrations is that when they had Cena for these dates, they didn't do more with him backstage, pre-tape, whatever the case might be. Why would you not have him bump into Natalya? Oh man, Natty, it's so great to see you. How's TJ? Whatever the case might be. Why would you not go beyond just he's in the ring for this segment and this is what you're going to get, and then no more Cena? It's that's the really odd part. So, like I said, the primary conversation around Cena's retirement run is that most people perceive it as imperfect. Some going as far as to say it's been bad. You will hear no argument from me about it being imperfect, even beyond the Logan Paul of it all. However, I strongly disagree with the contention that it was actively bad, particularly when you break down these appearances. So that's what I figured we could do as a means of doing a retrospective. A mostly surface level look at Cena's 36 retirement dates and whether they were successes or failures. Plus, what we remembered most about his last year in WWE. Then at the end, I'm going to total them up and we can have a conversation about whether it was indeed bad, imperfect, or maybe better than we remember. And the way I'm doing the points here, just so everyone knows, you can count along if you desire. If I say it's great, I'm giving 2 points, good 1 point, bad -1 point, and ugly, terrible, whatever you want to call it, ugly for the purposes of our show, -2 points, right? To be fair, even. So let's go through the first portion of the year. Raw on Netflix premiered January 6th. He announced he would enter the Royal Rumble. Good. February 1st, the Royal Rumble match. Final 2 with Jey. Then he cut the promo after the show about being selfish and entering himself in the Elimination Chamber. That was good as well.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I have to give that one a bad because I was supposed to ask Cena a question in that press conference and then he didn't take questions.
I mean, that's really selfish of you, but sure.
I guess that is my closest moment to Cena.
You were right there with him, yeah.
Moment. Yeah, WWE texted me and said, all right, you've got the next question. Then he just came in and didn't take him and left. I was like, what?
Yeah. March 1st, Elimination Chamber. He wins the match. He goes so far as to tap out. I want to say CM Punk at the end.
Yep.
Turns heel in that big moment on the show. You can say whatever you want about the rest of the heel turn. That moment was great. One of the highlights of this entire run, Chris. Super, super memorable. Had they, done the heel turn through WrestleMania and then done a couple different things and ended it like a month later, we probably would look back on it and say, you know what? It wasn't perfect, but that was pretty cool that Cena turned heel for a little bit. Instead, it went for pretty much half of this run.
It was an unbelievable heel turn moment for the moment it happened.
Exactly.
And him and The Rock standing together, and you're just thinking about all the possibilities of where this could go. We'll talk about what happened. But in that moment, unbelievable. I was texting people about it who didn't follow wrestling, and just like it was. I went to McDonald's the next day, and he's like on the drive-through menu thing because he's got a sponsorship for like one of the meals they've got or something like that. And it was like I think I tweeted like at McDonald's like, how dare you do that? Like, it was fun. Like, it was like so cool. And properly bloodied Cody, properly sold by Cena the moment when they're standing there. Like, man, that was awesome.
It was awesome.
Hitting him with the watch too. Like, so good.
So there were 4 TV appearances, March 17th, March 24th, March 31st on Raw, then April 18th on SmackDown. This all built to WrestleMania. You'll remember many of those happened in Europe. He made the kid in Brussels cry. He did get repetitive in terms of his promos, but once he got into the promo battles with Cody, when they went back and forth, it was damn good. Like, we had our issues with Cena's cadence and some of his repetitiveness, like I said, but this was the genesis of the heel character. And before we even got to WrestleMania, I thought it was a pretty strong build for a babyface Cody and a heel Cena and what they were trying to do. So I gave these 4 goods just for what they did on those TV builds. And then we got, of course, let me just get through WrestleMania. Yeah. We got to WrestleMania 41, April 20th, against Cody Rhodes, wins the WWE Championship with help from Travis Scott in a terrible match. No Rock, ugly. For all the blame that people threw on Triple H and WWE creative for the heel turn, some of it absolutely deserved. Cena did say this week in an interview that it was his idea to wrestle poorly and actively remove the fun from his segments and matches. That doesn't excuse the Travis Scott of it all and the absence of The Rock, which Cena clarified was Rock's decision, even if he kind of said it indirectly. Rock kind of said it was his decision too, that he was available, he could have been there. Different blame on who made the call for him not to show up. But it does seem like the booking of the heel turn is a situation of shared blame, not individual blame. Regardless, WrestleMania was ugly. You could argue was the worst. Not argue. It was the worst part of this entire retirement tour, despite the 4 TV shows leading into it being good enough.
So, like, his first promo, I remember watching it, listening to it in my car after I'd gotten home from the air. I was driving home from the airport from some trip because it was a daytime Raw, and I remember being so incredibly let down by that first promo
when he made the kid cry and stuff.
Yeah, because I didn't buy it from the beginning. The idea that he's turning on the fans now made no sense. The time to have done that would have been, 2014, 15, that period type of. They're doing it now when he only ever gets cheered when he comes back. To me, it was like, this is too late for this. This feels like the heel turn you would have planned 10 years ago, never went through with, and then now you're just running it now. And in that moment, and in the ensuing weeks, we never got a mention of The Rock selling your soul. True. Why that team? That was the problem. It was like the whole half the highlight of the heel turn was that he had teamed up with The Rock, and then that had nothing to do with it. And then we get to WrestleMania thinking The Rock will make his return and this will all come together, and then he didn't.
Yeah.
And that was my problem. The match was wrestled poorly. To me, in the moment, that was pretty obvious. that Cena wanted to wrestle a bad match.
Absolutely.
That was part of the character he was going for. Want to ruin wrestling, all that kind of stuff. I got that. But then to have Travis Scott and not The Rock show up was such a problem. But it did create a fun meme with my brother and me, where we would always just start texting each other fiend in capital letters at random times over the next couple of months.
And like the concept of wrestling poorly was okay, but not in the main event of WrestleMania. And not when Travis Scott is coming out.
Or at least if you were going to have some crazy finish, you know, schmozzy type of stuff. Instead, it was just Travis Scott doing a stupid thing.
Completely agree. So I was good coming in, but ugly, no question for me at WrestleMania. Seems like you were probably a bit mixed on coming into WrestleMania. Coming out of it, we had the first promo on Raw, April 21st. This was the debut of the countdown clock that they gave up on eventually, really quickly, for no reason that we could understand. But it also ended with Randy Orton appearing out of the shadows, doing the RKO out of nowhere. That was good. The next segment with Orton was later that week on SmackDown. One of the worst segments of this entire run, where he gave him shit about being a father and stuff like that. It was just really, really bad. The next SmackDown, it was a good back and forth between them. It was better. And the match between them was good. At Backlash, it wasn't anything spectacular. Should have been better. But we did get Cena and Orton, and it was pretty solid. Then we moved into R-Truth at Saturday night's main event. Just bad, straight up. Cody and Logan segment involving Cena on the May 30th SmackDown. That was actually good. There was another segment with Jey Uso involved with Cody. They set up the tag team match for Money in the Bank. That was actually really good on the June 6th SmackDown. And then the June 7th Money in the Bank, he loses the match alongside Logan Paul to Cody and Jey. It was a marginal good. It was a tag team match at a big show. It was like, why is Cena doing this? But I gave it a marginal good because, again, it was just a mixed bag. Like the promos were good. It wasn't what I wanted them to be doing, but it was quality television. And I believe on the podcast, we actually said that it was positive. And we'll go through just one more feud here, CM Punk, and then we'll kind of pause and you can get back in here. So the original promo with Punk, confronting Cena, June 9th Raw, that was good. The Punk promo again on June 13th SmackDown when R-Truth attacked Cena at the end. Ron Killings after cutting off his hair, that was good. The pipe bomb was great. And then basic Punkonomics was also great. And then the CM Punk match itself at Night of Champions, despite the location, that was good. So coming out of Orton being really rough and R-Truth being rough, and then having the Logan Paul deal and the tag team thing for Money in the Bank, Punk, it seemed like this might get back on track with CM Punk. And it did, in my opinion.
It was not a surprise that CM Punk was the one to get things back in order and to get the best out of somebody on that spot. But a lot of this, comes down to just simply availability. And the Orton thing was like, I don't remember. Did we get a promo with the two of them in the ring, or was it each of them?
No, they did. And it was like Orton criticized Cena for not being a father.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. Those were bad. Those were definitely bad.
Yeah. And then we never really were able to get follow-ups to some of that stuff because they had limited dates. Punk, they were able to do some more things. The pipe bomb stuff was good. He shouted out Nick Nemeth and Matt Cardona, both of whom made comebacks in the John Cena tournament later. We're just waiting for Cesaro to come back now.
Oh, right. He did that. I forgot that's where that was. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was fun. That was good.
Punk might have been his best feud, now that I think about it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's not a surprise.
No,
because
not a surprise.
Punk and Cena were always great at getting the best out of each other in that spot. And, calling Punk a BS artist and hypocrite and all this kind of stuff going into the Saudi Arabia match.
Yeah.
Which was like
unbelievable.
You really got him there. But then at the same time, Cena has since said publicly, like, that Punk's apology to the Saudi Arabia fan was like his favorite thing of this tour, basically.
Insane that he said that.
Yeah, a little bit weird, but it was that whole thing. The Punk feud was I agree. Outside of the heel turn itself, the Punk feud was the best feud.
Yeah, no question about it. And the fact that we got a Cena pipe bomb and then Punk doing basic thugonomics, I mean, they really nailed that. Like, they thought about what can we do to really pop the fans, and they delivered. And there should have been more thought like that throughout the rest of this run, especially kind of coming up to this. So after that, they built toward SummerSlam. We didn't see him again until July 18th on SmackDown when he did the contract signing segment with Cody, which was horrendous. You remember Cena came out there, he's like, yeah, my agent told me I shouldn't do SummerSlam, so I'm not going to wrestle. Then Cody knocks him out, makes him sign the contract. And then 2 weeks later, we don't see him for 2 more weeks. Okay. It's the go home SmackDown for SummerSlam. Now, this was a tentpole segment in Cena's retirement run because it was the turn back to face, all because Cody put him through a table and Cena said gave him a kick in the ass. And I'm not sure how I feel about it even now, because on one hand, it was such a weak way to do the turn when they should have done it during the match or as a consequence of the match. We talked about that so extensively on the podcast, how, Cena has to turn face after this for the rest of the run. Well, once Cody beats him, then he can say, I realize the error of my ways. The good guy got the best of me, and I really am a good guy at the end of the day. This wasn't the real me. And instead, Cena's basically like, Cody, you set me straight. I'm sorry. And Cody's like, it's cool. And now let's have a face versus face match at SummerSlam. So you know what? Now that I'm talking it through, this was bad as well. Both of these were bad. However, the SummerSlam match with Cody was great. You want to talk about tentpole moments here? You had the pipe bomb and the, Punkonomics and the heel turn originally. This match at SummerSlam was a tentpole moment of this retirement run.
And my memory of that is not seeing it live because I was in Italy at the time and having to watch the highlights and just him explaining that he turned heel because somebody told him it would make for good TV is one of the craziest things I've ever heard in professional wrestling.
It's ridiculous.
What are you talking? What?
Yeah.
And this was right around Unreal. So that was, I believe, kind of the tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, guys, we're breaking too many walls here. Like, it was a terrible way to do it, but they got the moment they wanted there at SummerSlam, obviously, which him getting the cheers coming in, but it felt like you said, like they weren't patient for the moment. Him turning heel in the match, would have been the
turning back face. You mean? Yeah.
Sorry, turning back face.
Right.
In the moment.
Like in the match, I can't beat this guy. Man, I really need to reconsider what I'm doing here. He is so good at that type of stuff too. It was such a missed opportunity.
It's so fans are cheering for him. Set up a moment where he could cheat to win, and he chooses not.
Exactly.
To do it.
That's what we talked about. Yep.
And so that
he picked because it was a street fight. He picks up the title. He looks at it. He's like, he shakes his head no. He throws it away, and then Cena, Cody hits Crossroads, wins. Whatever they would have done, but the match was still great. And them doing the street fight stipulation, going all over the arena, the false finishes, it was a little bit heavy-handed, but it was Cody and Cena, and this was a passing of the torch moment that you wanted. But this, to me, it wasn't the end of things that we didn't like, but if you look at it and you split it down this aisle, and you say everything here and before, and then everything after, I'll tell you, what came after, some of the better parts of this run. So let's move on. August 8th, SmackDown, he teamed with Cody and beat Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. Total waste of time doing this for one of his segments. Then he got back into the Logan Paul feud. August 22nd, SmackDown, he tore Logan apart on the mic. This was good. No question about it. August 29th, SmackDown, they kind of did it again. It was nowhere close to as good, so I'm giving that a bad. August 31st, Clash in Paris match with Logan, where we said multiple times, he should have been fighting AJ Styles in Paris. It made no sense that he didn't fight AJ Styles in Paris. He won. It was actually a good match, so that's the grade I'm giving it. Then September 5th on SmackDown, he fought Sami Zayn for the United States Championship. That was what brought back the U.S. Open Challenge, which was cool on its own, but they also had a great match. It ended in a no contest because Brock Lesnar came in and F5'd him. This was good, obviously, until the end. September 15th, Raw, he cut a promo on Lesnar. It was entirely basic. That was bad. And then September 20th, WrestlePalooza against Brock Lesnar gets completely squashed. Ugly. I mentioned on Tuesday's show that Cena said this match was booked as a squash purposefully, as a way to reestablish Lesnar upon his return, knowing Cena would be able to bounce back from it immediately. If he beat another wrestler like this, that person would be squashed and buried is really the word I was looking for. The logic there, it logics. It's understandable, but it was still a bad match. And worse than being bad, it was another waste of a limited appearance. Everyone knows Lesnar's a beast. They didn't need to do this. So coming out of SummerSlam, where it seemed like, oh, now they can really make this work, they do a Logan Paul feud, which, we didn't like, even if it was good, by a grading standpoint. And then they gave you Lesnar, and Lesnar was the second ugliest part of this entire run.
Yes, and I didn't see the Lesnar one either live because college football, but it was a very frustrating stretch of like, if you, it's not even that they were doing Brock, which we didn't like, but that you put that effort into it.
Right.
Like, that was very frustrating for somebody who wasn't going to come back full time, who has barely been back since. Just a complete waste of a big spot.
Yeah, totally agree. October 11th, Crown Jewel in Perth against AJ Styles. He won the match. It was obviously great. It's crazy that this brief run from August to SummerSlam, in August to October, included two of the best matches of his entire career against Cody and AJ, plus one of his worst against Brock. Cena contends that this match was enhanced by the Lesnar loss. To me, they're completely separate in my mind. That had nothing to do with us liking this, but the homages, the overall atmosphere of this match was so special. Everything from the introduction for Styles that no one knew about ahead of time, to the crowd all wearing yellow because everyone bought Cena's shirt, to the way it was wrestled and executed. This is one of the moments I'll rewatch many, many times. So you have this match, the SummerSlam match, and the heel turn at Elimination Chamber, plus the 2 segments with Punk. Those, to me, are probably the top 4 moments of this run.
Yep, I would agree with that.
November 10th on Raw, he won the Intercontinental Championship off Dominic Mysterio. I also gave this great. November 17th, his last Raw. It was not what I wanted, but he teamed with Sheamus and Rey Mysterio, beat Judgment Day. I gave it a good. And then November 29th, Survivor Series, his final premium live event, fought Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental title and lost it. I also gave that a good. Cena worked with Dom for 3 of his last 4 matches and 3 of his last 4 dates. This was the passing of the torch, going out on your back moment for Cena. Going over Dom in Boston and then putting Dom over in San Diego. Really cool 20-day run looking back on it. And as I've said before, Cena holds Rey Mysterio and his family in such high reverence. Cena can claim he didn't choose his opponents and such, but I guarantee you this was his call, or at least an understanding that Dom was the exact young person he wanted to put over on his way out.
Yeah, to me, it was a couple too many Dom appearances. Like, we didn't need to do the tag match.
Correct.
It's fine to have him beat him, fine to have him lose to him, but you did get a Cena Sheamus there. You got a Cena Rey Mysterio there. So like, I kind of get it, but yeah.
And then obviously coming up December 13th, Saturday night's main event against Gunther. We don't know whether that's going to be great, good, bad, or ugly. I have a feeling it'll be one of the first 2, but we can't count it yet. Cena did say the formatting of this show involving NXT talent, it is one of the few things he actively pitched. So Chris, adding all of this up, again, 2 points for great, 1 for good, -1 for bad, -2 for ugly. I got 19 points out of a possible 35, because you really should be 1, per date. And it can hit 21 out of 36. Now, there's a couple that you disagreed with, but I think we're pretty much in the same vein. So to me, that does not speak to a bad or terrible retirement run. It speaks to a flawed retirement run. Probably accentuated somewhat by the heel turn, the involvement of Travis Scott, certainly the lack of The Rock following up on the angle from Elimination Chamber. But even beyond that, they made some mistakes. The over-reliance on Logan Paul. They didn't book the Randy Orton feud well. There were just things that WWE could have done better here and should have done better here for someone like Cena. We would love it to be perfect. I had no expectation it would be perfect. But was this actively terrible? Not with some of those moments I mentioned. There are, 6 or 7 individual segments and matches that are some of the best work of the year in WWE and some of really the best moments that we've had in years that I will watch back many times. But there's also some that disgust me. And that was WrestleMania, which was the biggest moment of all, you could argue, and the Brock Lesnar match, especially.
Yeah, I think ultimately my biggest issue is just that we simply didn't get more of certain things.
Right.
Like just simply by the number of dates. Everything that they did, they could have made great if we just had more time to set it up. And we didn't. There were very few things that happened that was like, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was always, this is bad relative to what we could get otherwise.
That's exactly how I feel. Now, you mentioned, and I mentioned a couple times, he did this hour-long interview with Tom Rinaldi. It's posted on WWE's YouTube. There wasn't too much in there. I know there's one topic in particular that you want to talk about. So let me just go through some notes I took from this interview. First of all, seeing Cena in his standard getup, a t-shirt, shorts, and hat in a professional setting, sitting across from Tom in his suit in front of a fireplace. It was such a hysterical visual.
Yes.
It was like you plucked Cena out of a comic book and just dropped him into this like real life setting, which was weird. Cena has said a few times, but he insisted again here, he knows it's time to retire because he doesn't want to continue wrestling if he can't keep up. As we discussed, that's juxtaposed by us seeing him wrestle two of the best matches of his career in the last few months. But what's probably getting missed by everyone is Cena was awful in those one-off matches in the years prior. The difference in 2025 is he has stayed in ring shape all year, knowing he would be regularly wrestling. That is the difficult part to maintain. And that is why this year was such a success for him in the ring. Now, this is the topic you really wanted to cover. Cena said in the interview that he wanted to do one last full year in WWE, and he pitched doing 200 dates, which has been clipped and spread around. But what he actually said is that would have been as part of the old 220 date schedule. As I said before, WWE, they're only running 125 main roster dates this year, and there was no situation in which they would have had him on Raw and SmackDown every single week, plus every PLE, for numerous reasons I'll get to in a second. What he did say is that WWE came back and said, hey, we want 36 dates. And to me, that sounds insane when you remember some of the major gaps between matches, not having builds for certain shows like AJ Styles. We just went over all of that. Now, he gave a totally different answer to this question in another interview, by the way. He said he first broached the subject in 2022, not 2023. And then by 2023, they had a list of 60 potential cities for 2025, and ultimately they left 17 cities out. So there was never a chance that he was truly going to do full time, even if he ideally wanted that at one point. I imagine the reality, Chris, is that Cena goes, hey, I'm down for a full schedule. WWE both realized that would be overexposure, making his individual appearances less special, and probably didn't want to pay his rate for, let's say, 60 shows. Plus, his agents probably had a really great opportunity, or 6, lined up for him to film movies and TV. So they all came together, agreed on a number of dates, his rate, and they scheduled it so it would all work together. I don't have any inside information here. I'm just using logic. I am quite sure WWE would have taken him for another 10 dates, but there was never a world in which this guy was going to wrestle 125 Raws, SmackDowns, and PLEs. Would it have been nice to get 45 instead of 36? Hell yeah, and I wish we did.
Yeah, but man, John Cena's a true wrestling fan when he talks about the idea of doing 200 dates and all that stuff like that. All the civic centers and that kind of stuff. Like,
of course,
he did want to go out that way, and that would have been very cool. But there was a line in that answer that really stuck out to me, and he says it's when he learned that WWE isn't a live events company anymore. It's a content company that does live events.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be like one of the best ways we've seen anybody describe the TKO era. Like, that is ultimately what it's about.
It's true.
It's about creating internet clips for moments. That's why they do so much stuff off of television. It's why they do all these, special YouTube collaborations and stuff like that. That it really is ultimately what it is. And I think that is what frustrates me so much about this era. And ultimately, yeah, like I would have wanted more dates, like you said, but I think even more would have just been getting more out of the dates we had. I already said it, but like 2 backstage segments, like when you have John Cena, get everything you can out of him. It is very bizarre to me that we didn't get John Cena's ongoing reaction to the last time is now tournament.
Right.
We didn't even get to see him talk about it. It was a voiceover on a
right when it was introduced. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we didn't even get to see like, oh, can't wait to see this matchup. Like we got none of that. And that is not making more of what they had time-wise was more frustrating than the total number of dates.
Yeah, the one time they did it was having Cena announce the entrance for the Iron Survivor Challenge in NXT. I mean, they didn't even have him announce the people who are going to be on his last match card. But they had him announce the people that were going to be in those 2 Iron Survivor matches. And I was thinking, we were talking about this. I was like, why didn't they do this 10 other times with, promos, pre-taped interview segments for matches that he's not able to build, AJ Styles being an example of it. Just because AJ Styles was going to happen a month later, they knew that match was going down. Why could they not have taped a interview segment that just made believe it was a month later? Like, you could easily do that. So I completely agree. They should have made more out of the 36 dates they had. And for WWE, to what you just said, a content company, to not maximize the content that they have and the time that these individuals are with them, it's just really stunning to me. Cena also announced during this interview he signed a 5-year deal with WWE to be an ambassador for the company, which I'm sure will include eventually a Hall of Fame induction, merchandise, planned appearances at major events, WrestleManias and stuff. He claims there will be no physicality involved. And while I am sure that he will live up to his promise to never wrestle another match, I take him at his word, 100%. I could certainly see like a promo segment in the ring with a heel who's talking shit to him and he hits an attitude adjustment or something like that. I can't imagine he will never, ever get physical again. Maybe he doesn't, but I assume it'll happen at some point.
I think he said no physicality, right? Like, I don't even know if in the ring or on TV.
But we've seen it with The Rock and The Undertaker,
I know,
Undertaker
but
chokeslam Braun Breaker. Like, I mean, come on.
Right, but those people didn't say, I'm never doing this again. Like, there wasn't even a real... Like, The Undertaker retired like 2 or 3 times, kind of, and I think the one you would compare it to would be Shawn Michaels retired, and it was like, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back for a Saudi match.
Right, like, I know Cena won't do that.
Right.
That I trust.
The other person I thought might actually never do it, or at least come back to WWE, would have been CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
And that one did happen. I thought he might be too stubborn for it to happen, but he did. I believe Cena because it means something to him to not go back on that.
I just don't know if hitting an AA outside of a match while wearing a suit, it's not a match. So I don't think I don't even
know if ambassador means. I think ambassador just means like public events. I don't even know if he would be on television.
Oh no, he said he'll make appearances. He's said that he's not going to disappear from WWE TV entirely. I mean, they need to. They need to induct him into the Hall of Fame. So at a minimum, that's a Hall of Fame and 2 WrestleMania spots. I mean, that's an absolute bare minimum. We'll see him again. Cena did decline in 2 different interviews to discuss his heel turn, both not wanting to cover the topic while active and saying, quote, "Who cares?" to a question about what was actually planned versus how it transpired. This, Chris, is going to be one of those great wrestling questions that hangs out there until people one day finally feel comfortable to actually speak about the reality. Whether that'll be Cena, who knows? It's also tough to say whether what we ultimately learn will ever be the true facts of the situation. But, inquiring minds and such, like, this is it. Was the Montreal screw job real? What happened when Steve Austin walked out on WWE? Blah, blah, blah. One after another. This is now the big question of the modern era. Did The Rock screw Cena over? Was he supposed to appear there? What was the original plan, and why did it transpire the way it did?
Yeah, that will be the question. The Rock going on Pat McAfee to talk about it.
The damage control interview. Oh my God.
It was a disaster.
Total disaster.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get an answer because I don't know if anybody more than the 2 or 3 people involved really know the answer. It's hard to say if it's comparable to Montreal Screwjob, but
well, no. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there were so many questions around that. What's true? What's not true?
It is. But I don't think we'll come back to I don't think we'll make documentaries on the Cena heel turn.
No, but I do think it'll be a talking point in future documentaries.
Yes. And he has kind of acknowledged. He kind of basically acknowledges he knows
of course
didn't like some of the heel turns. So there is a self-awareness.
And by not answering, it's clear there's something there. If he said, no, that was the plan the entire time, it just didn't really work. He would have said that if that was the truth. And clearly that's not exactly what happened. All in all, this was a really nice, what I'd call, Chris, personality interview with Rinaldi. He does well asking probing questions. I did think it was going to go deeper than it ultimately did. As you told me when I asked you, what you thought about it, ultimately it was nice background noise, but really nothing that heavy. I believe we covered the major topics. I don't think if you heard our breakdown of it, you need to go listen to the interview.
Yeah, it's very much coming from somebody who doesn't watch a lot of wrestling. So this is like if Cena did an hour-long, like 60 minutes interview or something. Like you're not going to get deep into the wrestling specifics. And weirdly, compared to some of the other interviews I heard from Cena, he seemed less like engaged in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that was kind of the reason that he knew like this wasn't going to be about specifics of wrestling. This was going to be about philosophical stuff. And there was some good stuff. I find myself like often feeling similar to Cena in terms of certain things he likes, like uniformity and working hard over everything else, and like kind of his general life philosophies. I have found that I often like myself agree with a lot of, and there was some interesting stuff in there. But yeah, you're not going to get remember this moment in your career. What was that like? Or this? No, it's very much just like here's Cena's life mottos.
Yeah, he went into that interview in between autograph signings. So he probably was signing autographs for like 90 minutes or something, or 2 hours, whatever. Then did the interview, then went back to signing autographs. Whereas the others, he was in like interview mode. And which is weird. When you have Tom Rinaldi, I know they had to fit it in, and scheduling is difficult for everyone. But you would think, like, if you're going to sit down with Tom Rinaldi, you're going to be in interview mode. And he did give great answers. There's no shade on the interview. It was quality. Good job by Tom. Good job by John. No shade at all. But it wasn't as probing as I really believed it was going to be, and that's okay. It was. Look, John, you've seen his interviews on late night shows, and he's been doing these for years. He's not going to get up there and start exposing the business and telling secrets and, doing what all of those other guys are. I shouldn't say all, some other guys are willing to do. This was as John Cena of an interview as John Cena's ever interviewed. And it was perfectly fine, watchable if you're interested. But if not, we basically covered all the big bullet points for you. Now, before we get to our Saturday night's main event, ultimate preview, and break down the entirety of John Cena's last match, I do need to remind you that whether it is Raw, SmackDown, NXT, a premium live event, or John Cena's last match on Saturday night's main event, which will air on Peacock in the United States, but YouTube internationally, the Silver King is all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up and a drastically better viewing experience with high-quality streams and commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country, Canada, United Kingdom, wherever, open YouTube, and watch the show. It's going to be commercial-free for you. Even though they don't air commercials during the matches anymore since it's moved to Peacock, it's still going to be a much better viewing experience. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship or surveillance, protect your private data when web browsing, and avoid online threats. Plus, one NordVPN account can be used on 10 devices. To get the best discount from NordVPN, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan. And there's no risk because Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save money if you're still paying for Peacock, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. It is great to have NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of your boys right here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Now let's move from the past to the present. Let's discuss the conclusion of the Last Time Is Now tournament and transition that into our WWE Saturday night's main event ultimate preview, where of course we will discuss John Cena's last match. But first, the Last Time Is Now tournament. LA Knight versus Gunther in the final. Knight backstage said he didn't care about dream opponents. Beating Cena would cement his legacy. He said Gunther may be a former world heavyweight champion, but Knight is an unstoppable force ready for a fight. I'm glad he got a chance to speak, as should always be the case before a major match involving LA Knight. Gunther basically said his name translates to winner, and while there was a whole locker room that wants to be in his shoes, he'll be the one fighting and defeating Cena. Then he cut a promo to Cena, wanting him to pay attention to the way he beats Knight. There was a great stat from Michael Cole before the bell that Gunther has never lost a non-title singles match on the WWE main roster. Perfect way to help set the stage for the final, made even better by Mike Nash doing the ring announce as if it was a championship match. Added so much gravitas before the bell began. Did you enjoy the setup to this?
Yes, very much agree on all those points. Just like Gunther going back to this music, I cannot emphasize enough how much better this makes his entire presentation. He feels like a final boss.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like the end of the movie, the end of the video game. Like this is the guy, and that's the music when you're in this moment. So I continue to be so glad that they did that. However, I did not like the robe he came out in.
It's a fighter's robe.
What's that?
It's a fighter's robe. I mean, it's classic.
But like with like the long wrestling boots, it felt like it clashed. It almost looked like a bathrobe to me. Maybe it was the lighting or something like that. But I much prefer when he would come out in the jacket, like with Imperium. I prefer that than the robe on him.
Yeah.
But I did love the presentation of this. They made it feel like a big deal. I was excited for it. Well, I didn't watch it live and I knew who won, but
sure.
I was like, all right, like this feels like a big match, even though I know who's winning, and I'm excited.
Utilizing the robe and kind of going all the way back to the old music, to me, and I'll mention this later, it's building him almost as Ivan Drago. It's the big bad European fighter. And if you're going to be bringing that into a match where now we know, we're alluding to the way this is going to end, what the gimmick of this match is going to be, and you have him come out in a fighter's robe, because that's what his sole focus is, fighting someone, beating them down. It makes sense. I understand not liking the look, but it's intentional is the point I'm trying to get across.
It looked a little, everything about Gunther was so like kept up very well and like proper and like clean cut and all the stuff. And then the robe is like a little bit off. That's why I just like the jacket he had in Imperium.
It's more free, it's more free flowing, not as straight laced is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. But I there will be a point. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't happened right away, but there will be a point where fans will be singing the entrance music.
There will be
before a big match,
100%.
And it's going to be awesome because I always think back to that Worlds Collide match right before COVID of Imperium versus Undisputed Era. Honestly, one of my favorite WWE matches ever, and the crowd singing that when Imperium came in. It's just like, man, like that's going to happen at a WrestleMania. And it's why I was so frustrated they went away from the music in the first place, because it's something like Nakamura that fans will be into, and it's going to be great.
So since I mentioned Rocky, I'll transition to Ding Ding. Knight landed a flip over neck breaker during the first commercial break. Gunther maintained wrist control during a barrage of blows. Gunther escaped an O'Connor roll into a sleeper hold, but Knight immediately countered into a flip over pinning combination. Then he landed an attitude adjustment and burning hammer for a false finish. Come on, man. As I've said, burning hammer should be LA's finisher, and that plus in AA in any match, in any promotion, should not be a false finish. Knight again avoided a sleeper with a back suplex, but Gunther dodged a jump-up elbow drop, hitting a shotgun dropkick. Knight then escaped a powerbomb, hitting a DDT and the elbow. Gunther prevented blunt force trauma with a German suplex. The referee immediately checked on Knight's neck, so Gunther twisted it with his feet and went after him with a lariat. He continued selling the neck, Knight did, as Whiplash being kind of pushed off the top rope. The replay showed he actually did take a really nasty bump, but it was planned. Gunther followed with a regular splash and a frog splash, plus a powerbomb for a pair of false finishes. He was selling the neck still, Knight was, as Gunther approached for a sleeper, but Knight caught him with a sudden BFT out of nowhere and a 2.99 rope break. Perfect. Gunther finally locked in the sleeper, pausing for hammer elbows before adding the body scissors. Knight powered out and attempted to put Gunther on his shoulders, but the Austrian immediately pummeled him with hammer elbows again, one after another, wrenching on his neck with a twisting version of the STF, sans the heel hook, for a long-delayed, grueling, and painful tap-out submission victory. Gunther then screamed into the camera that he would make Cena give up and tap out. The finish was so well done. There were people in the crowd booing and cheering simultaneously.
Oh! Yes! I love that!
Holy cow, did these guys put in work. This was the match of the tournament by a landslide. The best singles match of LA Knight's entire career by margin. An absolute, unabashed
banger.
And undoubtedly
big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want.
Seriously, what an effing main event. I rewatched it before doing this show just to make sure I wasn't all, caught up in the moment.
No.
I'm not sure what else I expected going into SmackDown or this final. I did not expect this. These guys delivered, not only in terms of putting on a quality match, but wrestling in a manner that legitimately elevated the entire tournament in terms of its prestige. Gunther emerged as a guy who didn't just beat a few dudes in order to be granted the opportunity to fight John Cena. He finished this as a dude who earned the opportunity. This was the dictionary entry of a professional wrestling match. It was booked perfectly. Knight looked incredibly strong going toe-to-toe with Gunther. He had counters for every bit of offense thrown his way. Huge false finish with the combo spot I mentioned. He was given an out with the neck, but the match didn't end there. Instead, it went another 5 minutes afterward, with Knight not only persisting, but staying aggressive offensively, hitting the BFT and getting the false finish in the ropes. Gunther needed not only to wear him down, but to absolutely destroy this dude's neck. He did not win with a typical move in his arsenal. He had to dig deeper and find something else. I'm not sure if he's used that submission anywhere in WWE. If he did, maybe it was NXT UK. And then the match ended not with a pass out, but with a tap out. It's almost like if there was a Silver King checklist for what I would have wanted WWE to do in this match, they went down and filled in every damn box. As Kenny KGB would say, check, check, check. Absolutely phenomenal work. Both guys should be incredibly proud of themselves. This is on my short list for TV match of the year. And you know what? It may wind up atop that list. I got the benefit of watching this straight through without commercials, which certainly made it even more enjoyable. But even rewatching it, I was borderline on this grade. It came inches away from an A+. 4.5 stars A. Exceptional work across the board.
Yep. Fantastic stuff. Great match. They gave you the spot where you thought LA Knight was going to win. That's what you had to do. You had to give us the false finish you thought would work. And it was the one where Gunther got the foot on the rope. And I love the finish just like you. I love that it's a tap out. Is that twice now in this tournament, at least, that Gunther made somebody tap out? I feel like we credited that before.
I believe that's true.
Maybe not, but we were so tired of the sleeper holds and all that. And like, make them tap out. It's better if you make them tap out. And it was a good way to do it. I love that submission that he had, not doing something. I don't know, like you called it like an STF, but without the foot or whatever.
Right,
I don't know, but it looked brutal. It looked properly brutal, and it got the reaction you would expect. So extremely well done by both guys, well deserving of the championship. And for all, like, Gunther is obviously great, but LA Knight obviously as well deserves credit for the work he put into this. And it's a reminder of, like, he's not just the catchphrase guy. The guy can really do a lot and help put Gunther over here.
No, it's worth an acknowledgement.
Acknowledge.
Big acknowledgement right there.
Acknowledge.
I mean, this is a guy who, he can talk, but, he's just kind of mediocre in the ring. No. LA Knight can go in the ring, and he's been going in the ring throughout 2025. This is probably the best in-ring year of his entire career. This was the best match. I went back and looked at matches I had seen, ones I hadn't. I checked Cage Match for some of those, old grades of what people said. This was it. Number one with a bullet. I don't know. There may be other matches rated higher by other people, but in terms of like his top 10, all of which I have seen, this was the best one-on-one match. And a lot of credit goes to Gunther, because don't forget, he did this with Solo Sikoa. He did this with Carmelo Hayes. He did this with Javon Evans. He didn't give Javon his best match, but the other guys he did. And this has been a run for Gunther to this point. And it's been a build, step by step by step. Went over the young guy, went over still a young guy, but not as young. Then went over a beast, meaty type of guy in Solo, and then a main event level star in LA Knight. And he went through this entire tournament. And that kind of gives us an opportunity to put a pin in the Last Time Is Now tournament, now that it has been completed. My take is simple, Chris. It could have been and should have been better. We've spoken about the why ad nauseum. Some younger competitors, some less predictable booking decisions, allowing people to progress after the first round and then lose in the second round as opposed to just lose right away. Two guys getting injured certainly didn't help. But the last three matches all delivered beyond expectation. The final particularly so. We got the correct two finalists, if it wasn't going to be someone young. And at least for me, individually, as I'll explain in a couple of minutes, Gunther was the right winner and the right final opponent for Cena. So if I was grading the tournament overall, I'd give it a B+, but it was one or two key decisions away from being what I would consider a low A.
Yeah, like, I think what I would have wanted is you want like superstar level people, you want young people, and you want surprises.
Mm-hmm.
We got young people, we got some surprises, we got enough superstars at the end of it. But the first, second round-ish, there were some people where you're like, well, I know Shinsuke Nakamura is not winning this thing. This kind of feels like a wasted spot. I would have loved to, it's going on at the same time as War Games, so it is what it is. But what I would have liked, like Drew McIntyre is in here, and maybe maybe Cody's in there or something. I don't know. Like, I would have loved bigger names at the start. Ultimately, there will be moments in this. I remember Dolph Ziggler coming back, Zack Ryder coming back, Javon Evans doing his thing, LA Knight and Gunther. So like, solid like B+ for sure. I just think in terms of what we got, I do think the presentation of it could have been so much better. I wanted John Cena's commentary on who's advancing and how it's going. And,
absolutely.
And all this kind of stuff. I wanted more promos from the people involved. I wanted more why this matters for the people involved. And that fell well short.
Great point. So Gunther opened Raw, getting the exact type of reaction a promoter would want. Pure heat and simultaneous chance for the babyface, John Cena. Gunther said it would be a true honor to be Cena's final opponent, calling him the greatest sports entertainer of all time, who will unfortunately be going up against the greatest professional wrestler of all time. Gunther threw his own countdown up on the Titantron, calling Cena the hero who never gives up. He said beating Cena is not enough. He's going to break his spirit, bully him, drop him on his head, and squeeze his neck so tight that hustle, loyalty, and respect drips from his body until he finally gives up. Top tier, old school heel promo from Gunther. Dare I say a 10 out of 10 and perfection achieved. When you consider the match, the circumstances of the limited time frame, and the angle they have quickly developed through this long weekend, I'm not sure what else could have been done to make this segment sing, other than Cena showing up. Just thought Gunther knocked it out of the park, and again proved why he not only deserves to be in this spot, he actually belongs in this spot. On top of that, the give up hook to Cena Gunther, it's perfect for a retirement match that is not a retirement stipulation. Working directly against Cena's never give up mantra, it puts his back against the wall in a way that it otherwise would not be, while he's fighting a guy who has already been established as dominant within the company. Cena has only submitted 4 times in his entire career, twice to Kurt Angle and once each to Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. The Angle submission with 2004 No Way Out, 21 years ago, was his last. Knowing that one of these two guys, Cena or Gunther, will ultimately tap out, that raises the stakes of this match, because it's not only about a win or a loss, it's about pride. And it simultaneously ensures, by the way, that Dominic Mysterio is the last person to pin John Cena, which is a huge positive considering we did want a younger wrestler to get put over in the record books. So not only for me is Gunther the right opponent, which I will expand on momentarily, but moving into this give up stipulation and putting the never give up mantra basically on the line in Cena's retirement match as the white meat babyface in WWE, I don't know what else you could want. So he knocked the promo out of the park. And I'm going to be honest, WWE, they knocked the booking out of the park too.
Yeah, Gunther did as well as he could here. I thought it was really solid. It's just very frustrating to not have a face-to-face, to have literally nothing from Cena going into his final match. Like, that's it. Like, we got the loss to the Dominic Mysterio, and then the next time we see him is the last match. No build, no nothing. That is very frustrating. That is not on Cena, but that is very frustrating to not have that. It does set up this very much sets up like Hulk Hogan versus the foreign heel. You know, Hulkamania is gonna die, and there's a part of me that appreciates the throwback feeling of it all.
Now, look, as far as Gunther being Cena's final opponent, and this is something I badly have wanted to speak about, many fans are continuing to look at this from the wrong perspective. You may be thinking, oh, why does Gunther get this match? He doesn't need the rub from Cena. He's 38. He has the Intercontinental Championship record. He has a World Heavyweight title already on his resume. He held the NXT UK title for hundreds of days. He's not going to benefit from this. This is not about beating Cena, and it's not purely about getting the rub from Cena's last match. Sure, it benefits Gunther being Cena's final opponent, but this puts Cena in a fresh bout we've never seen before, what many would call a dream match. One of, if not the greatest European wrestler, a former dominant independent star who many thought would never sign with WWE, against someone being billed as the greatest of all time by WWE, one of the greatest American wrestlers from a box office and longevity standpoint in the nation's capital. Classic American face versus foreign heel without a concentration on their nationalities. Rocky IV without the vitriol. This is about putting Cena against a fresh, pure heel opponent who can give him the best possible retirement match, both in terms of bell-to-bell action and fan sentiment. Gunther is going to get his ass booed even louder than he was Monday, and Cena is obviously going to be mega over getting cheered. Remember, beyond some of the poor booking that we discussed, Cena's heel turn failed because fans did not want to boo this guy during his retirement run. The last time many of them would see him wrestle live, they didn't want to spend it booing a guy they have been cheering their entire lives. Gunther is the lone big bad on the WWE main roster whom Cena has neither fought nor vanquished. And he is the big bad on the roster right now. He is going to give Cena a better match and draw better heel reactions than, let's say, Braun Breaker or Dominic or any of the other younger heels. Knight getting the match would have been worse bell to bell, and it would have diminished the heat because you'd have a babyface against a babyface. I've stated the way I believe this match will go, and I will repeat that when we do our predictions. But Gunther is the best possible opponent, not because he needs the rub, but because he will provide Cena the opportunity to retire on the highest possible note. And that's precisely why Sting's final match was booked in that manner. Those guys were the last ones in that company who needed a rub. What they did was give Sting his best possible match in his final appearance. So if you loved that, what WWE is doing with Cena and Gunther here, it's identical from a presentation standpoint. Don't forget, this was a pre-announced retirement match on a schedule. It was not a situation where they built into the final match through a storyline. WWE is putting arguably the best wrestler in the company, who is simultaneously the most dominant heel, against their white meat babyface goat. He's not just a good or great retirement opponent. Gunther is the retirement opponent for John Cena.
Especially considering the result that I suspect both of us may pick. I'll say this, like, in terms of like who the opponent is, what do we think we will say about Gunther when his career is over? I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, what is your favorite Gunther storyline? What is your favorite Gunther moment? Are there that many of them? We all remember matches, Dragunov matches, like stuff like that. But like, in terms of his WWE moments, like how many come to mind?
Well, the Ilya Dragunov feud for me, and I understand that's one that many people don't know about and didn't watch. And honestly, if you're watching Dragunov on SmackDown and you are impressed by him, there's no reason for you not to go back and watch all of their matches and segments. That is what is most memorable for me because it was legitimately incredible. It's WWE's version to a lesser degree of Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega. Just the two perfect opponents who put on the perfect matches and had the perfect storyline working against one another. But to your point, that's not the main roster. And I would say on the main roster, he really has not had that yet. I remember his Intercontinental Championship run, just the totality of it, not a specific feud. You could go about the street trash stuff with Damian Priest, but that's not a top level deal. The truth is, Gunther has been booked like a main eventer on the main roster. He's been booked incredibly well, but he has not yet reached that tier of all-time main eventer because there's a lot of other people in his way. As some of these other folks start falling off, some of these other superstars, that's the territory he's going to move into. And I think we're on the precipice of seeing that. So he doesn't need the rub from Cena here, but he's absolutely going to get it whether he wins or whether he loses.
Yeah. No, it's not about a rub. Like Gunther is going to end maybe as one of the most accomplished people we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be a WWE Hall of Famer. I mean, there's no question about that. Yeah.
What he doesn't have though is like character moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got there briefly with Damian Priest and the street trash thing, but that ended so quickly.
Right.
And so I'm just like Gunther is so talented, and this isn't about him. This is really more about WWE's usage of him, where it's like they're giving him accolades and he's getting booed and he's over and he's a good wrestler. But like for a company that for so long was like, what are the moments?
Mm-hmm.
There aren't that many moments. And I do think this Cena match will be a moment. But what frustrates me is that we didn't get a week or two of them going face to face. Imagine Cena cutting one of his classic Cena promos on Gunther, or Gunther coming back at him. And like, we really could have built this into like a thing. And instead it's just somebody is Cena's last opponent and it's Gunther and it'll be a good match. Yeah. So I have a little bit of frustration there, and that Gunther is so incredibly talented. And I just wish we could have done more with this.
Yeah, that's more a consequence of the scheduling though, not so much WWE creative. I mean, as we discussed earlier, they made a lot of mistakes in booking Cena's retirement.
Well, sort of. I mean, like he did tell Tom Rioli he wanted to do 200 dates.
Well, okay, he said he wanted to do that. Doesn't mean it was reality. I mean, he booked this whole thing around his movie shooting schedule. I mean, he talked about the insurance issues and all those things, and this is what he was able to do.
I'm just saying, like, I hate using, well, the schedule is why we didn't get more with Cena when, as we already talked about, it was kind of, we could have done it. But anyway, I just say that just like,
but no, you couldn't. You couldn't have. I mean, the only thing they could have done, and we have talked about this previously, is there were so many opportunities where they could have pre-taped stuff. Just because Gunther was the decided winner on Friday night doesn't mean they could not have pre-taped a sit-down confrontation between them and aired that Monday night on Raw or aired that this Friday on SmackDown. It is weird, by the way, that SmackDown's going to be in the same city as Saturday night's main event, Washington, D.C., 24 hours earlier. And Cena's not going to be on that show building his match with Gunther. So these are all things they could have done just with the foresight of, wow, they're not going to have a face-to-face segment in the ring. So let's build an interview segment or a confrontation backstage or whatever the case might be. And they just didn't. So yeah, there are areas in which creative could have done a better job, but the schedule was the schedule, especially in the final quarter of 2025. And if you can't get them live face-to-face, then you can only do what you can do. And
I say all this to say, like, Gunther is I've come around on Gunther being the opponent, absolutely making sense, and it's working, and I think it's going to be a great match. I just think more could have been done to make this a bigger thing for Gunther.
Sure.
Basically. Sure. That's all.
No, I don't disagree. It can always be better. Even when it's great, it can be better. Like, I don't think there's ever been a show of this, an episode of this podcast where we've said this was 1,000% perfect, 0 notes, and then not said, but they could have, whatever the case might be. And this is certainly one of those cases. And now, Chris, we can make our predictions for John Cena's last match with Gunther as his opponent. I stood 10 toes down making this call on a prior episode, and nothing that has happened over the last week has moved me from my spot or dissuaded me. In fact, it's only emboldened my prediction. Cena is beating Gunther in Washington, D.C., and he's going to make him tap out with the STFU. As I outlined, this match is not about Gunther getting the rub from fighting Cena, let alone beating him. Gunther being in the ring with Cena on such a monster stage will accomplish that naturally. Gunther is Cena's opponent on Saturday night because he's the one man remaining in WWE who Cena has yet to conquer. The one man who has been built up to the level where beating him actually matters. Add in Gunther's focus of making the guy who says never give up go against his mantra, and Cena will get to go out in celebration, not only with the tap, tap, tap and the major pop that will go along with it, but from a messaging standpoint. He never gave up. Gunther could certainly win. Cena could put him over, and I would not have much of an issue with it because a legend going out on his back to a legitimate main eventer is perfectly acceptable. However, Cena already did his job. First, losing the WWE Championship to Cody Rhodes, and then losing the Intercontinental Championship to Dominic Mysterio, that being his final feud and his last title defense. Saturday night is a celebration, and it begins with Cena tapping Gunther out.
Yes, John Cena is going to win. It has now been telegraphed, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Like we said, the whole storyline here that they've added late in the tournament is Gunther is going to make Cena give up. That's the point. John Cena, Mr. Never Give Up. You will give up. He's not going to give up. Honestly, it'd be amazing if he did. It'd be an amazing way to go out if he did. If he tapped out John Cena to end his career, that would be a moment.
Could you imagine?
That would be unbelievable. That would truly be something. I don't think it's going to happen. And I think it's okay that it doesn't happen. John Cena goes out winning. He goes out going over the internet darling. Like always, buries him. No, I'm just kidding. But I think it'll be a really good match. Cena will win. It's perfectly fine that Cena goes off with a win. And it is what it is. And I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. I mean, I expect... I'm not going to come in here and say I'm expecting the best match of John Cena's career. But, Chris, what did we just talk about a moment ago? Since August, in the twilight of his career, literally his last gasp, he has put on 2 of his, 5 best matches ever? Cody at SummerSlam, AJ Styles at Crown Jewel, and this to me is that third jewel. I didn't mean that pun, but the third jewel in the crown. It's Cody, AJ, Gunther. And if you kind of go out on that note in the level of match that Gunther can offer, I mean, you're talking about John Cena potentially wrestling 3 5-star matches in the final 5 months of his career, which is absolutely insane. So that's where I see it going. And he's going to leave it all out there. You know, this is going to be on Peacock in the United States, YouTube internationally, as I mentioned earlier. No commercials during the match. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. This, I have a feeling, is going to be an extremely special match and moment. And we can also talk about in a bit what we expect from a pop and circumstance standpoint.
In terms of how the match goes, do you think we're going to get shenanigans? Are we going to get run-ins? Are we going to get ref bumps? Or do we think this is just going to be a wrestling match?
I believe it's going to be a straight wrestling match. Don't forget the Styles match, I want to say. They never left the ring.
Yeah.
And I believe this is going to be executed in a similar fashion. Now, is it possible they want the mega heel heat and like they run into the referee and he goes down in the corner and Gunther, because we saw him low blow Solo Sikoa, a couple weeks ago, does a low blow, and then we're like, oh my God, Cena's actually going to lose, and so on and so forth. And they use that as like an extra emphasis, maybe. But that to me would be the extent of it. I don't think we're seeing weapons, table shots, anything into the barricade. I believe this is going to be, if not 100%, 95% a pure bell-to-bell in-ring wrestling match between these two guys. I believe that's what Gunther is best at. I believe it's what Cena wants, frankly.
That makes sense. There is a part of me that wonders if we go completely off the wall and we do a Cody Rhodes WrestleMania 40 thing where like all the ghosts of Cena's past come out to save him. Like there's Randy Orton making a save on some run, and there's a CM Punk doing something.
Not the way they've built the match with the give up, stipulation.
Yeah, no, I know.
With a longer build, possibly, but you know what? I feel like to your point, they kind of did it.
They did kind of do it. They also did kind of do it with the AJ match too, where he brought out everybody's moves on each other. Like maybe that was the match that honored John Cena's history and all that stuff. Maybe. I was just thinking like, is there a chance it just totally goes off the walls? And does The Rock show up to honor Cena in his last match?
I'm real curious about whether Rock's going to be there. I don't think he will because he would, I don't want to say overshadow him, but The Rock shows up, he becomes a headline, and the headline should be John Cena.
I just feel like it's John Cena. It's the last time. Are we really just going to do bell to bell match and that's it? Or is there going to be more? Like, that's what I keep wondering, and I'm not sure. I think it's possible we get some stuff. It could be throughout the show too.
Absolutely.
Like
Tributes.
Maybe we have Orton and Punk and whoever, like their final on-screen, deal with Cena. Like maybe, like I would love for that to happen. I complain all the time that the pay-per-views don't really have a through line or a storyline going on within them. Maybe they build this whole show around Cena, which I think would be a good idea, instead of just, I just really hope the first time we don't see Cena is when he's walking out for the match. I'd love to see a whole big build up throughout the show into that match.
Well, the questions that stand about the show are what pop and circumstance is going to exist around it, right? Because it's going to be not just Cena's last match, but his final moment as an in-ring performer. Now, he is still with the company. He's going to be an ambassador. We knew that was going to be the case. But the overall presentation and representation of the WWE locker room is going to matter. Now, I presume all or most of them will be there, with key figures going out on stage or even entering the ring for Cena's retirement speech. I have to imagine he will speak. I don't think the match ends and he just goes quietly into the night. That's one thing. And then there's also the representation at the show. I'll just tell you all this. I know factually from a great source that Linda McMahon will have a suite and other government officials will be there, including many believe RFK Jr. Now, 47 is not expected to be there because the Army-Navy game is still there. No, RFK is a big wrestling fan. Army-Navy game is the same day. And I think we'd already hear about security being ramped up for the show if that was happening.
Yes.
But there may be a significant political contingent at the show. The question is whether they will be shown or referenced on television. That would create potential unnecessary controversy that may even overshadow Cena. So hopefully WWE is smart enough to stay away from all of that. I do expect plenty of celebrities in attendance. I've heard a couple names who are supposed to be there. Featuring them as quick one-offs like WWE always does, that would be fine as long as it's not overdone, as long as they're not heavily interacting with Cena and doing skits or any bullshit. So that's where I stand going into the show. There are going to be a lot of notable people there. Let me just make that very clear. For me, though, this needs to focus on John Cena's career, and anything extra should be with his peers, with Randy Orton and CM Punk and The Miz and R-Truth and all these guys, both young and old, male and female. It should be the wrestlers sending Cena off, not extraneous other people who just want their moment in the sun like Travis Scott.
Agree. Totally agree.
Now, beyond the Cena of it all, there are 3 other matches on this Saturday night's main event card. Before we get to the matches, let's discuss how they were announced on WWE television. Ricky Saints and Oba Femi were backstage at SmackDown for a meeting with Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes, though it was Cody who actually held court. He shook their hands and told them that whomever was champion coming out of NXT Deadline would be fighting him at Saturday night's main event. Extremely cool to do this. My initial expectation here is that it was going to be Ricky, both because I had predicted him to retain the title and obviously due to his long-term friendship with Cody. However, I simultaneously thought to myself, a subsection of fans would be irate if WWE was platforming NXT talent on this show and not putting Oba in a match. Then again, I thought, would fans really be okay with Rhodes possibly beating Femi? So it actually did create a question in my mind about who was going to win that match at Deadline, which I didn't have going into the show. It wound up being Oba Femi, which was counter to my expectation, but made for a much more exciting and forward-looking match. And later on SmackDown, The Miz was backstage complaining to Aldis that he didn't have any chance to fight Cena, and since he's not doing that, he claimed he should have a spot on the show. Aldis called him out for switching the lottery names last week when Bayley came in discussing her spot on the show. Aldis informed that she would indeed be participating with Sol Ruca, entering for a boilerplate back and forth as Bayley's opponent. I'm glad the Miz issue was addressed. It didn't exactly solve the real problem from last week, as we discussed, with everyone but Aldis knowing the name was switched. As for the women's match, you could have said, Silver King, write down a dozen women's matches that you think will be on this show. I'm not sure I would have come up with this combination, Bayley and Sol Ruca, as the featured women's match. I did find it interesting that WWE isn't doing champion versus champion for the women like they are for the men. I don't know why. Stephanie Vaquer and JC Jane are two young women who could have gotten platformed on the show, and it would have actually worked in storyline because Stephanie never got her win back over JC. But based on Bayley's unselfishness and her positioning in the company, plus Soul's ceiling and where WWE believes she can go, this did make a lot of sense. So that was all the setup on the, not the go-home SmackDown, but last week's SmackDown, Chris. What did you think of the way they kind of built these matches and announced them?
Well, obviously more excited for the men's one because it puts stakes on Deadline, and those are, Oba Femi, future big star and all that. The Bayley Sol Ruca one was kind of random. We've seen Sol Ruca on main roster TV. They've done some tag matches and stuff. Oba Femi, I don't believe has been. Same with Ricky Saints. I keep having to catch myself on that. So I like it. I think Bayley has very much transitioned into like the old guard type of person. And so I understand like she's the reliable hand. You put her, the old reliable hand that everybody knows, you put her against the young up and coming person, Sol Ruca, who I think we both think is a star,
absolutely
future star. So I think those ultimately made sense. And Bayley, didn't Bayley do something recently of like an open wrestling clinic or something?
She did. She did a whole women's wrestling camp in Orlando. I believe it was in Natty's Dungeon. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's where it was located. And John Cena showed up. And he didn't just show up. What Bayley wrote on social media, he was there for 8 hours talking to all these women, many of whom have absolutely nothing to do with WWE. That's incredible, man. I mean, talk about unselfishness and use of your time. He went down for Bayley's clinic unrelated to WWE and spent 8 hours there talking to a bunch of women, and I'm sure a lot of his, friends that were there through the company as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And WWE also did announce a tag team match for the show. We'll just get to that as we go through these one-on-one.
I brought up the Bayley camp just to say another John Cena Bayley, young wrestlers connection there.
Yeah,
with all that.
No, 100% makes sense. All right, let's go through these matches. We have Cody Rhodes against Oba Femi, champion versus champion, not title versus title. This is a decently wild match to just throw on the show, but it has a chance to be quite special, depending how it's worked and how much time they get. Ultimately, I cannot see Oba beating the active WWE champion clean unless they were going to literally strap the rocket to him and put him back over Cody again at WrestleMania. Considering Femi just won the NXT championship and probably isn't dropping it until Stand and Deliver that same weekend, you just cannot have him beat Rhodes here, at least not clean. On the flip side, everyone is going to be up in arms crying if Cody just goes over Oba clean, even though he's the top star in the entire company right now. And Femi just lost to Saints 2 months ago. We just lost the match. That said, he just lost to Saints 2 months ago, and he just won back the NXT title on Saturday. So how exactly can you have Oba lose this match clean? Again, you really cannot do it. This, to me, screams Drew McIntyre interference. Whether that results in a no contest, accidentally costs Femi, purposefully costs Rhodes, I cannot say for sure. My official prediction is McIntyre interference and a no contest. If there is a 1-2-3, it'll be Oba pinning Cody after a ringside Claymore, the referee knocked down, doesn't see it. Otherwise, if it went the other way, you'd have Femi angry at McIntyre, and that just wouldn't work in any context.
I don't watch NXT enough to know this is going to be a dumb question.
No,
is Oba Femi like a pure heel?
No, not at all. He is very much a tweener. The fans love him. He is often on the heel side, but there have been just as many occasions in which he's been on the face side. And even when he is the heel, like when he fights Javon Evans, and Javon is obviously a pure babyface, people still love Oba. So no, he's not in any way a pure heel or even close to that.
That's what I thought. So like, does he use Drew McIntyre interference to get the win? Does that fit his character? Is basically what I was going for. I do feel like we are going to get Drew interference. But is it tough if Drew interferes and Cody wins? That's a pretty tough look for Oba.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's happened before. We've seen it all in wrestling where the heel interferes and then he accidentally costs the other heel the match. You know what I mean?
You know what? What about this? What about Drew interferes, but so does Ricky Saints, and Ricky Saints helps Cody basically as well.
Interesting.
Because they're buds, and I think I'm sure they would want to do this. So maybe we end up getting both of them on this show, and they both interfere, and it cancels each other out. That's what I think happens, and I do think Cody wins.
You think Cody wins? Okay, with double interference, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes.
All right, fair enough. Bayley versus Sol Ruca. You know, after Bayley got pulled from the WrestleMania 41 card, the fact that she gets to be on this show featuring Cena's last match, it's really well-deserved and well-earned. It is. They could have easily bubbled up Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch or Rhea Ripley for this. I honestly just assumed Rhea Ripley was going to be on this card. But they're going with Bayley, which is even more meaningful because she was what NXT was about back in the black and gold day. So that's great for her. There's another reason, though, she's in this spot, Chris. Someone from NXT needs to win clean on Saturday night. Yep. And the two scheduled men's matches involve champions. Bayley is incredibly unselfish, and being a true ring general, it makes a lot of sense to put her in this spot. Likely to lose to Sol, take the Soul Snatcher. You know, everyone goes crazy for it, and it'll be forgotten that she loses come Monday night on Raw. So This one's easy. Sol Ruca beats Bayley.
Yep, same pick as well.
And we have AJ Styles and Dragon Lee against Javon Evans and Leon Slater. Like I said, this was announced suddenly on Raw without really any lead into the fact that they were even going to add another match. I thought it was going to be a 3-match card because Cena would go on so long. But speaking of decisions I would have never guessed, putting a TNA contracted talent on a WWE main roster card featuring Cena's last match absolutely floors me. Hell, Dragon being on this is surprising too. But Slater's inclusion is completely unexpected. I might have thrown Javon into a triple threat with Cody and Oba and run a second women's match here, considering that is the true strength of NXT. But there's a legitimate possibility that this bout is hype as hell. Javon needed to be on the show. Styles being involved is great. He and Cena have really formed a tight relationship recently. Ultimately, Styles and Dragon are the champions. I presume they pin Slater. There's no reason for Evans to take the loss. He literally just won the Iron Survivor Challenge and is the number one contender for Oba. So that's what I see. Styles and Dragon win. Slater takes the fall. Pretty cut and dried. But this match right here, it's not going to be the best on the card because I do believe that'll be Cena and Gunther probably by a mile, and they're not going to want to overshadow it. But people are going to be talking about this match.
Yes, I agree on all counts. I haven't seen Leon Slater a ton, but what I have, it's clear WWE really likes him. I'm curious, how much input do you think Cena had on this card?
So I do believe him when he says that they asked, what do you want your last show to be like? And he said, I want to platform some NXT talent. I believe that. I don't think that's forced on him. I do believe it. I think he had legitimate input. He likes to sit in these interviews and claim, I just wrestle who they give me, so on and so forth. Even if that's true for, let's say, 75% of his run, I am quite sure he said, I'd really like to wrestle AJ Styles at some point. Let's factor that in. Gunther being my final opponent is either who I would like, or when they proposed it, yes, that's exactly who it should be. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he was into some of the individuals that are being put on this card. Styles, Javon Evans, maybe he knows about Sol Ruca. Do I think he booked the show? I don't think he booked the show.
He does know about Sol Ruca. I've seen there's a picture of the two of them from NXT when he went down there a little bit ago. So
I'm just saying, I don't think he sat down, wrote on a piece of paper, these are what I want the matches to be.
No, I'm just curious.
But I definitely think he approved all of them and was consulted in a real way. I do believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think about that trip he made to NXT and maybe he was scouting just to see who he thinks might fit on the card. I don't know. Cause I Cena loves, he's such a wrestling nerd. And I think people don't the internet doesn't really remember that or think about that much. Mm-hmm. But he really, really loves the art of this whole thing and always has. And there's that old clip video of him someone found. Mm-hmm. I think WWE Vault may have put it up of him pulling out his old tape collection from back in the day. Yeah. And it's so funny that he best of Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
In Rey's wrestling.
He had tapes from Japan death matches.
Yeah.
He was a tape, I don't want to say he's a tape trader because I don't know if he did that. He was at least a tape collector. And he had everything. And he was a student of the game in a real way. Like, no joke, no shitting. And we might see in this Gunther match, like, we didn't really go over this. You mentioned how they did homages, in the AJ Styles match to all their other opponents. We may see a ton of those in the Gunther match. Not just people that he's fought, but just people he's idolized throughout his entire career. Wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, no, and it's why I believe it when, the idea that Cena wanted a show that would put a bunch of new young people over. Like, I completely believe that he wanted that.
Yeah, me too. Chris, that was the ultimate preview for WWE Saturday Night's Main Event and John Cena's last match. But just like we would normally do, we need to provide a pre-show expectation grade. And as we do that here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, there are so many opportunities where the Silver King gets to speak first, but not when it comes to grading shows. Vintage, that is your domain primarily, at least ahead of me. What is your pre-show expectation grade for WWE Saturday Night's Main Event featuring John Cena's last match?
I'm trying to think with my head and not with my heart.
Okay.
I'm going to go A-. I'm going to go 92. But I very much think the upside is there, where we come out of this saying this was everything we hoped it would be, the perfect farewell for Cena, emotions. And then when we're doing the show Saturday, my feelings are different. But I'm going to go A- right now, 92, right below A.
That's completely legitimate. I'm going to lead a little bit more with my heart than my head, because the way this card has been set up, we're not going into a show that's filled with storylines. It's one big story, John Cena's last match. And, as fairly criticized as WWE has been for his retirement run, which obviously we went through in detail earlier, it started really hot and it's ended really hot. And I don't believe, no matter what mistakes were made previously, that they're going to go into this and not fully deliver exactly what we expect and what we want and what, more importantly, Cena wants in this final match with Gunther. Everything else on the show is bonus, really. But what is extra on the show has a chance to be phenomenal, no pun intended, because style is wrestling. Cody and Oba in 2025 is a dream match. It's a dream match for 2027, 28. It's happening now. Bayley and Ruca, it may not be the most exciting bout on the card to a lot of other people. It has a chance to be extraordinary given their talent level and the way Soul can flash. And then the tag team match, it can just blow people away given the level of talent all four of those guys. So I'm not going to kind of damper my pre-show expectation grade. I'm not going to go crazy by any means, but I'm coming into this 94 out of 100, an A. This show, I believe it is going to deliver. And I think giving it a 94 as an expectation still gives it a good amount of room to exceed expectation. It is impossible almost, Chris, the way we grade especially, to do an A+. I think we've only done 2 or 3 PLEs or special events that we've given an A+ in the 5 to 6 year history of this podcast. There is an opportunity for this show to hit that ceiling.
I think my biggest issue in terms of my grade not being higher is that it's only 4 matches.
But it's only 2 hours.
Right. I know. That's why I think it's hard for me to get to an A. I think it's hard to do an A with that little of thing without title changes and this and that. So that's just part of my thinking. It very well could. Like I said, it very well might. But it's not, we criticize 4-match cards, for stadium shows and stuff like that too.
Sure, but that's kind of different. And I think ultimately you grade based
on...
Why
is this a 2-hour show? It's not on NBC. They can go as long as they want.
Well, that's just what it's booked for, and it's 4 matches and stuff. But beyond that, listen, they don't normally do this for the Saturday Night's Main Event. So let's clarify. They're doing the countdown and the post show. They're treating it like it's a PLE. So just because it's listed as 2 hours, I would not say for sure it will be strict in that 2-hour window. Certainly Peacock's not going to complain to get more content. I can tell you that. Not on this Saturday when they don't have college football.
That's true. Yeah, that is true as
well. So it may go beyond, but as of right now, I believe it is booked. For those 2 hours, Chris, we have some high expectations going into the show, and a reminder for everyone listening, you will be able to share your pre-show expectation grade and your final grade for John Cena's last match and Saturday Night's Main Event on social media at Getting Overcast. We post that poll on Twitter before and after the show. We want your voice to be heard, especially because we will discuss what our grades are, your grades, and we'll give you the full results on the show in our WWE Saturday night's main event instant analysis of John Cena's last match. Of course, on Saturday night, as soon as that show goes off the air. So like I said, follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. You can vote in those polls, but you also get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments on Twitter and Blue Sky on YouTube. You can subscribe over there, listen to full-length audio episodes, and watch full-length video interviews. Don't forget, here at Getting Over,
It's all about the fight.
so head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And please do not forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
I hope you do as well. For $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Support vintage, support the Silver King, support the continuation of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We appreciate all of you lending us your ear holes for the second of 4 episodes this week right here at Getting Over. But it is officially time for us to sign off and leave you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.